be casual, and then have a coffee, make sure that you're at your best, because I made the mistake of being very sleepy in an interview and just being blank and pretending to think when I was just on your start your own project and focus into entrepreneurship. People across have been doing everything. You can start your own fund. So it's just there's so many options out there. So I mean, and like I said, every individual is unique and different, and whatever fits the bill for them. But I think there are enough spaces you can be.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for watching our channel and even all our videos, subscribing to them. And if you haven't, do subscribe to the channel for more such inspirational stories and journeys. Today we have Divyansh Jain on our channel. Divyansh Jain is an SRCC graduate. Post SRCC, he went to Deutsche Bank for a year, after which he decided to complete CA final. He completed a CA final, after which he worked in BCG. Then Divyansh, being a star that he is, then he got into Blackstone, and today he's working in Blackstone, working in a private equity while being an undergraduate and a chartered accountant is a feat in itself. So we'll just go through the journey of Divyansh, what all motivated him, what all made him decide, take a step and take on a decision. Over to you, Divyansh. First, thank you so much for taking out your time. I know how hectic it can be. I'm really glad that you took out the time and you're very reactive and instant in responding to me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No, I think thanks for having me over here, Shreya. I think it's just by privilege. I think I'm very privileged to connect with so many through these platforms, and just even one or two individuals learn something from my learnings and my mistakes and do not repeat them or get inspired. I think it's just very overwhelming. So I think I'm just glad to do this.
Divyansh, you got one of the best placements out of college, Deutsche Bank. You even worked for a year at Deutsche Bank. But then you took this journey of CA final and you completed 3 years of articleship in Calcutta. What made you take this step? What was the deciding factor?
So I think at that point, I was in the EMEA oil and gas team in London. And at the age of 22, I did not want to do oil and gas for life. And I was not sure if I wanted to stay in London. I decided that I want to stay in India. So what do I do? I mean, leaving the job was one decision, but what do I do when I come back was the main question mark. And I think my dad, who's a CA and has his own CA firm, he just told me, why don't you complete your CA? You've already cleared your intermediate. And in life, whenever if you want to come back work with me, also we can collaborate on something. Otherwise, there are multiple opportunities out there after a CA as well. So I think that was it was a very simple decision. And in life, a lot of times there's one thing is where you should be and where you want to be. And I think that time I just wanted to be in India, close to parents. And I thought, okay, I think fine, I'll do CA. And I think there are two decisions, decision A and B, and whatever you decide, I think you have to, whatever you choose, there's no right or wrong, but whatever you choose, you have to make it right and justify it. And luckily things fell for me in the right place. And I'm happy that I took this decision. But I think the 3 years of articleship were really tough. And, from SRCC, everyone, all your peers, whoever graduates from there, the median salary is anywhere between 10 to 15 lakhs. And by the time I was in the 3rd year of my articleship, getting peanuts, no salary, no money, nothing. They were all doing very well in their careers, had gone through 3 increment cycles, and were uploading their holiday pictures on Instagram and their promotions on LinkedIn. So, if you're looking at all this, you might, when you're young, you can get anxious looking at these things and you often compare. So I think very early in my life, I realized that, okay, I should never compare my career with anyone else's, what I'm earning with anyone else, and my success with someone else, and my failures with someone else. So I think that I'm very happy that I learned that, and I'll always be at peace wherever I am. I'll be happy with everyone else around succeeding, and I'll always cheer for them. And I think if you just control that, and it needs a lot of mental discipline, it's not easy. So I think like social media, I really believe as much as the benefits, there are a lot of negatives of social media as well. And especially when you're doing CA, you're stuck in a room for 4-5 months, and every hour of meeting friends and not studying makes you feel very guilty. So I think that was the very tough part. And just for someone who's looking outside, from outside, that whether you're leaving an investment banking job, it's itself a dream role in London, to come back in Calcutta and Dalhousie to do your articleship. just does not seem like a rational thing to do.
Yeah.
But again, there are multiple variables in everyone's decision and career, and that's why I think you should never compare. And for me, this variable was very important, and I think for someone else it could be something else.
Yeah, I think I totally get this because even I came back from SR to Calcutta. Even I was working in NS Road. I mean, those 3 years were one of the most difficult years of my life.
Correct.
That I had to uninstall LinkedIn, honestly. Like I would keep on seeing my peers, they were promoting or they were shifting jobs. And in the last year of my articleship, when I had to study, I actually uninstalled LinkedIn because I am not going anywhere. I have to give my exam.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
and that's all of this, I can totally feel it. So it's very true. I totally agree on this. So once you cleared the finals and you did a stellar job, you got AIR 10. What were the particular areas of interest, given you even did CFA finals? You completed all the 3 levels of CFA. Any particular areas of interest that you had, or your approach? What was your approach after your CFA?
Correct. So, when you look at various success stories in life, you often hear things like you should choose a goal, just focus on it, put in like complete 100% attention to it and strive for it, and you'll get it. I think my story was not remotely close to it. I wanted to get an investing role, that's true, but I was interviewing for every role out there. I was interviewing for consulting, for banking, for even FMCG roles, and even for industry and other positions that I knew I would not take up. And I obviously wanted investing because I had seen a lot of my friends from college, after doing banking or consulting, move to investing, and then hearing about the quality of work that they do. And I also had a peer from Deutsche who had joined Blackstone actually. So I think I just knew that he was doing I heard that he was doing very well in his career. So I think that way I realized that, okay, investing would be a space I want to be in. But again, where in investing was a question mark, and whether I'll get the kind of role I wanted to. So I think, but I think your decisions are relative. You have to play with the cards you get. So you can't always self-select your career, and that's why that was my whole idea of applying for everything. And I mean, I don't take a lot of risks. I like to hedge. I totally believe in the concept of hedging, and that's why I was interviewing for banking, consulting, and whatever would be the best role that I get. Even if I want investing, I'd be very happy to get something else. And I think I realized like what I heard is the global bulge bracket investing firms would hire from a tier one banking or consulting role, was what I'd heard. And that's why at that point of time, my priorities were investment banking and consulting. Given I had already done investment banking, I would still give an edge to consulting. Because
Okay.
I had seen some friends who were in consulting and the kind of work they were doing, they're getting to travel, meet interesting people, and develop this consulting toolkit, what you call. So I think that's when I wanted to give an edge to consulting. So then I had offers from two investment banks, one BCG, and which is consulting, and there were two offers from yeah, from funds that were smaller funds relatively. They were not bulge bracket. They were both of them were, I think, Indian funds. So and then a friend of mine, Rohit from college, he just advised me that you should just go to BCG. It's one of the best places to start your career, and you'll get great opportunities from BCG once you join. So I think that's when I decided, okay, I should choose consulting, and BCG is a great place. And I'm glad I took it, because I think BCG was a beautiful 1 year experience for me. So that's my whole process of deciding what to do after CA.
Yeah, no, I think that is amazing because I think now that I'm looking at it and hearing you, I think your 1 year at Deutsche Bank helped you immensely. Like, I think the offers that you've gotten, I don't think so that many people might, because you had that 1 year of experience.
Correct,
People knew
correct,
that you have slogged in the corporate world, you have some knack, and then you took a choice and then you went for CA final, and there also you
correct.
did a stellar job. So I think all of it together comes, and then that's the outcome. We just don't see the outcome, then we'll realize how it's happening. I think that totally makes sense. So I think you yourself said that you wanted to do consulting because you just wanted to try a different role than an IB, because you could have easily gone for IB, as you said. Okay, so since you went to private equity, what was the approach for you? And what other advice that you can give to people who would be watching this video?
To get into private equity?
Yeah.
So I think investing now is growing as a space in India. There are a lot of new funds coming in. There are a lot of roles that are opening up. So I think you should first understand investing is also a very big landscape. There's early stage, there's growth, there's the buyouts. So that the landscape is very vast. So you should actually do your research of where you want to be and why you want to be in investing. I think that's the kind of research that even I did not do it very well, to be honest. I think retrospectively, when I look back, I think I should have done that very well. And so you should just understand where you want to be, and not just because you've seen someone in a role and it looks like a fancy role, so you just want that. I mean, it's good to aspire, but it's also good to, it helps if you do the research and you do your homework.
Yeah.
So I think I would just advise do that, and then just work hard enough to get, like, if you think that there's a path that is very conventional to get into investing, I think do that. Probably I actually did that. I tried to get a rank so that I get into consulting, so that I get into a budget bracket investing firm. So that was my goal. And
Right.
I thought that there was a part to it, and that's why I stuck to it. But I think there are multiple other parts to it as well. And I don't think there's any shortcut, but so that's why you'll have to work very hard. Uh, apply everywhere, left, right, and center. There is, I mean, no pride is lost if you just ask for anyone for help for an interview, or to find a connect, ask your friends, your family, your friends. Just be out there, and you someday you'll be at the right place at the right time, and things will click for you.
Yeah, I think this totally makes sense. And I 100% agree on this point that apply everywhere. Like whenever I have any other juniors coming to me, they're like, I want bulge bracket, IB, or I just say that don't restrict yourself. Like go all out in your application. You don't know what might happen. Like don't be restrictive in your application at least. You have your own preferences, that totally makes sense, but at least don't be restrictive in your application.
Correct. And I also feel that that I learned something from every interview. And I made my share of mistakes early in those interviews. So when I was interviewing for Blackstone, when I gave those 8-9 interviews for this firm, I was so well prepared because I knew what to expect. I knew what were my weaknesses. In the earlier set of interviews, I had practiced my elevator pitch. I had thought about my self-awareness. I had interacted with folks from the industry and gotten insights from them. Just every time you're interviewing with someone, they push you to different levels, and it drives your creative juices. So I think it's just and I know the kind of questions they ask, so which are the areas I should work harder on, and how they test you. So I think it's just, you should just interview as much as possible.
Yeah, it's like practice. You just
it's like sharpening your tool, just so that when the final blow hits, you just get it.
Totally, I totally agree on this. Agreed. So what are the few basics? So from this, I've understood, like you would just say, tell anyone to have a little research when they are applying and know what they want and be all out in their applications. Now, any specific interview tips or any technical aspects or anything that you think that people should have in mind while they are sitting? So many a times it happens that people do get calls from the PE firms, but converting them is the main challenge. Like we might have good profiles, we do build on it, and we get calls as well. I think the so many rounds that we have, that's where we get stuck. So what anything that you would have thought, if I would have known this before, would have been better? Like someone who's watching this video, you think that you can just give it out to them, that might be helpful to them.
So I think there's some basic things that everyone's looking for from a potential new hire, and it's tough to always deliver that to every interviewer that you fit the bill, but just try to think from their lens. Focus on communication, be a good communicator, be self-aware, make sure that every answer, every word that you utter, how it'll be perceived from the interviewer. Don't be casual, and then have a coffee, make sure that you're at your best, because I made the mistake of being very sleepy in an interview and just being blank and pretending to think when I was just blank while answering. So I think don't be casual about it. And then also make sure that you've done your research. It looks that you've done your research when it comes to the company that you're interviewing for, the person who's interviewing you. Ask them questions and also try to learn from them. And also what's important is there'll be multiple rounds. Like you said, some people do well in 3 and then do bad. So it's important to be very consistent. And if you be consistent and do well in every interview, you don't have to nail every interview 100 and 100, but you need to get 9 on 10 in every interview, because 1 or 2 5s or 5 on 10 or 6 on 10 is where people the house of cards just falls. So I think just make sure that you get a 9 on 10 in every interview, and getting a 9 across will in a way get you across to the other side of the road. So I think that's very important. One more thing is, when people are smart and they answer everything correctly, but where they fail is to be a good team player, I think it's very important to be likable. And when you say there are these airport tests, I think that's important because everything that we do, it's you have to be in a team role. There's nothing that anyone can do alone. And
Okay.
so it's just that way, it's important to be liked. And the other thing is you should just have some empathy. So I think that'll take you miles ahead in your career.
Right. I think basically knowing what you are saying in and out is the main thing. Like, because many a times we have done so much of work, we also don't know half of the work that we are doing, because
Right.
on a regular basis, it's get a little grueling to actually even know the why of the work. Once we start doing the why, and accordingly, that will be even be shown in our interviews that we know what we are talking about. I think
Right.
that's what any interviewer would want to see, that whether you are talking sense and you know what you're talking about. Trying
And
to put
be also be very careful of what is written in your CV, because sometimes people write a lot but do not have enough content to back it, and everyone's made this mistake. So just make sure
yeah.
that you do your research at least as what's on your CV very well.
Okay. So does this matter even in a private equity interviews? Like usually the people make these interviews in the initial part of their job. Usually PE roles comes in at a little later stage of their life because we need some experience. So I don't. I'm not sure whether we would be making these kind of mistakes, or even if we make, okay, definitely we shouldn't be making any other. Like, so many times it happens that the technical questions that comes in, it's like we have no answer to it. So how do you think that we can go about to such technical questions that you are just totally blank in your head, like you don't know what to say at all?
See, there are different ways to go about it. I think one is if you're applying for consulting, the set of interviews would be different. For banking, they'd be different. For investing, they'd be different. And ultimately, where you can go blank is uh, I think if you get a puzzle, it might be that you're blank and you can't solve it. But I don't think otherwise there are situations where you go completely blank. In the technical interviews, also there's some certain formulas that get repeatedly asked, something like a free cash flow or how to calculate cost of capital or something like that. It's very
Yeah,
basics of
right.
corporate finance. So just make sure, just it doesn't hurt to Google questions asked in an investment banking interview or a private equity interview, and at least be very thorough with them. So at least you can't fail on the basics,
Mhm.
because that if you fail on that, I think it's a big red flag for anyone interviewing you. And other than that, if there's a question that comes, you get a full toss, and then just make sure that you knock it out of the park. If you get a very simple question, if you get a very tough one, then just be very honest that you do not know the question, but you'd be happy to learn about it. And because it's definitely a question that's not very conventional, right? Because you've done your research, you've done your homework, you've prepared, and yet there's a question that you don't know. So you probably it's a tough one. And it's okay if you do not know every question. It's very okay. Do not then don't pretend to know or fool around and waste the interview's time, because there's definitely agree that they're smarter than you. If
Yeah.
someone's interviewing you, they're smarter than you. So you can't pretend and get away with it.
Yeah, I think pretend, I think, yeah, that's one of the worst mistakes that we can do, that we just pretend that we know something. And it's very easy. Like if today, if I look at someone, say, who's doing articleship and they come and tell me that, yeah, I'm doing this, I think even in the conversation, the attitude that person speaks, we can easily make out whether what that person is saying is correct or not correct. I think that is definitely there. When we come on the other side, we forget that and we try to pretend so that we just get the score. But
Correct.
then that's very true. I think if we keep it in a conscious mind, that's better.
Yeah.
So if we see the general trend of the people who get into private equity, a very good number of people get into consulting. Is there any rationale behind it? Or what can be the rationale for you? Or if someone say wants to get into private equity from IB, what route you recommend that person can take?
I think I personally think that the paths are the same. And we interview as many people from banking as from consulting. We have hired people from investment banking earlier. There's a track record clearly there. And I think in every investing firm, I agree that there are more consultants than bankers. And according to me, maybe the reason is that when you're preparing for a consulting interview, you go through a month of doing case practice. You're doing case studies with your friends, your partners, your people, friends already in consulting. So there you learn how to structure a case, a problem statement very well. So if you give me a case study of, let's say you find a dinosaur, what do you do with it? Today, I can even structure that. There are three options, A, B, and C, and which one would make sense in under what situation. So even something in an abstract case, consultants learn how to structure it. So that's why even when you come to investing, your approach towards investing cases is slightly better. You have that edge, even though
Okay.
bankers have a better edge in their concepts of finance. I think, but finance can be taught, but structuring is relatively tougher to teach if you're already on the job. So because you
Yeah.
don't get that 1 month of practicing case studies again. So I think that could be the edge. But otherwise, I think once someone you get hired, the organization will train you well enough that in your long-term career, whether you're coming from consulting or banking, doesn't move the needle at all.
Yeah, I think that is definitely true. In the long run, many of these doesn't even matter. It's all in the beginning, and when we're starting out the journey, that's when all of this matter. Even the rank, for that matter, matters in the beginning. Like after that, how much efforts we are putting. There's so many people, even with a rank, who've not managed many, like what might have happened, and there are people without ranks who manage so many things. So yeah, that's definitely there in life, that how much effort we're giving on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, in fact, people with the rank sometimes get complacent that they'll get everything on the platter later on in life. So could go the other way as well. Completely agree.
Totally. So if you can just discuss your work profile or what your day-to-day activity is, like there is literally, even today I am sitting here, I'm also very fascinated with this. Like we all are more whenever we are in the consulting or the IB industry. What your work profile is, and anything that that you think on an average that this is challenging, or anything that you think after doing it you're like, yes, this is something I really like about my job. So what are these few things that we can talk about?
So I think in general, for the viewers, investing is where you manage funds for your limited partners, who are these sovereign funds and the pension funds and institutions of the world, and you manage their the funds raised from them, and you invest them, and you get a fixed asset management fee. And if your investments give you profits, then you get a share of the profit. So that's basic investing. And as me as an associate or an analyst or associate at Blackstone, what you do is basically when you get your deal opportunities from bankers or sourced from your seniors, then you evaluate the industry, use the space, you see whether you want to be in the space, and then you create a financial model, and then you make some assumptions and see whether the money that you'll invest, whether it'll get you the returns that you're targeting. So I think that's basically the job. And once you've invested in companies, you need to do some portfolio work where you're making sure that the companies are doing well, they're tracking, they're making budgets that are in sync with what they should be, and whether the company has the right resources to meet the budget. So I think it's in general, that's the whole work. And then later on, obviously, you need to sell these investments as well in these companies. So entry, managing the portfolio, and then exit. That's the basic landscape. Okay. And now comes to what is challenging and what I really love about the job. I think the challenging part would be that as much as I do, there's a lot of pressure of not making a mistake. So sometimes because every mistake has a very high cost, and the scale at which everything you're doing, anything that could go wrong would go wrong at a very big scale. So there's this, no one can actually, I mean, zero defect culture per se is a myth, I believe. But, striving for that zero defect culture is the attitude that you need to have. And that is much, I mean, that's positive pressure in some ways, because that pressure will create the best output from you and will push you to your best limits. So, but it can make you anxious sometimes. So that's the challenging part. But I think the most satisfying part is also linked to the challenging part, because the outcomes of what you do are beautiful, because you are actually making headlines, and the scale at which you're working, the quality, the people you're meeting, and they're all folks in industry veterans who have done so well in their lives, and you're getting the chance to meet them, and it's just because of the platform that your organization is giving you. So I think that's the most satisfying part, and it's just the quality of work. And so I think that's the privilege that comes with this job.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think the impact of your work, I think I like, we are connected on LinkedIn as well, so I had seen one of your posts, the IPO and everything. I think that feeling must be really great, that you worked on it and there was an IPO and so many people are subscribing to it, it's impacting everyone. I think that's an amazing feeling. I think behind that, whatever challenges or sleepless nights that you must have had, or no weekends. I think it doesn't matter. You just see that impact, and I think it's just worth it in that moment.
Yeah, I think that way, like this investing as a career is very entrepreneurial as well, because you're very invested in what you're doing and you don't really treat it as a job, but it's actually you take it as your own pet project and you put in your best. I think that's the motivating factor behind it.
Right. Yeah. I think yeah. So basically, if we have more smaller teams and more impact, it's like so. Then it takes an entrepreneurial journey. Like then it doesn't become like an employee and an employer. The bigger the organization is, and the more the number of people are involved, it's more like an employee-employer. The smaller it is, the closer. That's totally there. So anything that I know, mostly people are happy, very content in the PE job, private equity firm. But anything that you have in your mind that people can take because of the skill set and exposure, that any other route that you can take, or what are the exit opportunities that people face or they have at their hand?
I think after 3 years of investing, I think 3-4 years of investing, I think you can probably move to any industry, because you have learned to evaluate 25 deals a year and pick up sectors, new companies at a very fast rate, and you can ramp up. You can do your 80-20 very well. So I think then you can actually switch to any industry. You can continue with investing. You can go for an MBA. You can probably do like start your own project and focus into entrepreneurship. People across have been doing everything. You can start your own fund. So it's just there's so many options out there. So I mean, and like I said, every individual is unique and different, and whatever fits the bill for them. But I think there are enough spaces you can be in.
Yeah, that is okay there. So anything that you have in your mind, or like anything that is there in your mind, and you're like, do you have any masters in mind? Do you have any entrepreneurship, or you just
No,
like let's
no, I think I've decided that I probably do not want to do an MBA, or I think with CA, CFA, SRCC, given I want to stay in India, I think I'm happy. I'm kind of done with my education. And I think I'm loving the work. The rate at which I learn every day of my job is much better than every day of studying for my academics. I think clearly there's a big difference, I feel, and I really believe I can learn exponentially more on the job. So that's my thought process. That's where that's what I believe. So I think no, and right now I'm not a 3-year, 5-year plan guy. I don't make 3-year plans, 5-year plan, 10-year plans. I'm just
let's go with
enjoying
it.
every day of my work. I'm really living by the day and appreciating what I have, the privilege, and I'm very fortunate where I am. So just enjoying where I am right now for once, and not worried about where I would be the other day.
Thank you so much, Divyansh. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Shreya. Thanks for having me again. And I hope that the last 30 minutes that we have spent talking to each other is helpful for many out there.
No, I'm sure it was quite insightful for me as well, and I'm sure it's going to be for many others, CA freshers and everyone. It will be. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.